Hello.
Hey Lee, how are you?
Hey, Ron. Good. Very good.
Hey,
Sure. All right. By the way, I rarely do this. Uh, pressure people to turn on video. So no pressure, but if you guys are inclined, please do. But if you're not wearing any clothes, maybe please don't. I guess it's that. Anyway, we'll start off today with some bad jokes like that. But good. Yeah, there he is. Yeah, looking good, Sarab.
Saurabh.
Oh,
It's Saurabh.
yeah. I give it the wrong enunciation, don't I? I do.
I, I get that, but I know that you can do better. So that's why I tell you.
Yeah, nice, good. Yeah, if you've seen any of the other calls, I very often am asking for correction.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now,
Same with Lidor last time. I remember.
oh, okay, yeah. Well, hit me with it again.
My name,
Yeah.
it's Saurabh Thakur. Saw plus rub.
So, shit. I don't have it down yet. Oh, I might have to. When we go over the Meshery CTL stuff, I'm gonna have to practice because. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good. All right. Couple of minutes after the hour. Housekeeping things.
Lee, I'm not able to view the docs. Like, I have to ask permission. Is that any change?
Nope. Let me take a moment to make sure that you've got access. All right, everybody, bear with me one moment. I'm going to make sure that we've got the right permissions in place, and then, thank you. And then we will get going. You know, I have to say, if for nothing else other than making sure that everyone can freely join the call without having to be admitted to the call is maybe reason enough to switch to Zoom. I haven't gotten it figured out why that is. So, Saurabh,
Yeah.
are you able to access the Meshery community drive? Like the whole drive that has the meeting minutes and design specs and.
Yeah, I'm checking. Just a minute.
I've shared the link in the meeting chats if you need, Saurabh.
Yeah, I can see the. I am able to access all the docs from the drive and don't know why I'm not able to open it from the link. Yeah, thanks. We can continue if.
Okay. Is it still not coming up right now? The meeting minutes? Sorry,
Yeah, everything is fine now. Yeah.
Okay, good deal. Okay, very good, fair enough. We're 5 minutes after. It's time to kick off the call. We've got someone who very persistently wants to speak with me on the phone right now. All right, fair enough. Well, everybody, hey, welcome to the Meshery Community Call, Friday, May 1st. Wow, gosh, what's the 4th going to be? Is that Tuesday? Boy, oh, that's Monday. Boy, that's, well, we'll have all kinds of jokes, I guess, on the CI working group about the 4th. All right, hey, some housekeeping items. I put the link to the meeting minutes into the chat. If you're on the call, a couple of things. Please go in and list your name down as attending. I've been saying this the last couple of times we've met, reasons why to put your name down. A few things. One, it just feels good to see that people are here. Two, at some point, and actually you can see part of our first announcement is just a number of people have joined this week, and it looked like about that number last week. So we're on a path to becoming a relatively large community. I think there's about 750 people who are using, learning, adopting service meshes in the Slack. And there are, some of our meetings have more attendance than like the Istio community call or other calls, which is great. My point of it is that as we scale, there will be some additional governance to come into place to help us do things like help make a decision if we've got if we need to have a tiebreaker, or if we can't figure out how to go forth on something, we might have voting rights. And so part of those voting rights would be, it'll be a really convoluted thing, but it would be based on contribution. And part of how contribution is measured is, yeah, it's code, but clearly not always. Actually, not doing any code is just fine. Just showing up at a meeting is contribution as well. Writing a blog post, talking about it, using it, providing feedback, all of those things count. How they count, I don't know. That's the complicated part. The point is, meeting attendance will be considered as well. So good to have a record of that. It's actually been a little bit of a discussion in the community recently. There are I'm gonna digress into this and just say that there are a number of you that have been willing to show your smiling faces on the Meshery.io community page based on time spent here. And a discussion recently was that there are a number of people, like any project, that will kind of come and go, and sometimes they come back as well. And once someone has made a contribution, that stands for all time, right? That said, whether or not that individual is active in the community is maybe something to signal here, because actually this represents only a fraction of those who've contributed. And so there are forthcoming profiles to be put up, and maybe signaling who's active, who's not. We've begun to establish some working groups and who's leading those groups. And we've begun to establish some roles and things. So there's a lot of work to be done in the community about organizing ourselves. So all of that to say, if you're on the call, slap your name down. That would be nice. Outside of that, the other housekeeping notes are that we, much like all other open source calls, not all of them, but a lot of other calls, we record ours and post them on YouTube, so that you can look back at them and laugh at yourself for the silly things you've said and how funny your voice sounds. But I say that because actually we had a community member surprised on Monday that the meeting was recorded and up, and it was a pleasant surprise, but it was a surprise nonetheless. And so it's a good reminder to me to just kind of make that quick note. So there are a few of us who are new today, which is fantastic. Because there are a couple of us that are new, we're going to do a couple of things. One, we're going to put you on the spot and ask you to introduce yourself. That's our way of getting to know you and making you feel uncomfortable at the same time. So now I'll also note that there are about 4 meetings a week that are held in the community, and actually probably shortly 5. And so because of that, we will shortly be having a central place to indicate what those discussions are about and make sure that it's well understood how you can join and how you can participate and how you can lead things or do different things. So I mentioned that to say that on this meeting, the agendas of those individual meetings are slightly different. This one is really broad scoping in nature. We tend to have people from various projects presenting on interesting technologies in the ecosystem. So some of the announcements and things that we speak to aren't necessarily, are intentionally not confined to this community's specific stewardship, but rather things that are happening in and around. So, very good. Okay, with that, if you're new today, or rather, if you haven't been on this particular community call, if you would take a moment to introduce yourself. I'm going to call out some names to the extent that I can read them. And so, Nitish, do you want to say a few words? Get introduced.
Hey guys, this is my first community call, but I'm really excited to be part of it. I've been following Lee's work and been a big fan of Istio Up and Running, his book with Zach. Fortunately, didn't get a chance to meet Lee at KubeCon North America. About me, I am in the telco domain, specifically in the 5G domain, and 5G is all cloud native. So I'm a technology architect at Affirm Networks, now a Microsoft subsidiary. So I work on all things cloud native, especially applied to telco. So really excited to be part of this community.
Nice. Oh, that's fantastic. Nitish, I'm tickled that you're here. I'm just realizing that I may have offended both of the Nitishes, I think, who are on the call, and maybe so to the first Nitish, yeah, welcome. Thanks for joining today.
Yeah,
you'll have to share a picture of maybe if you don't mind, share a picture of Ella on the in the meeting.
Yeah, I will. I'll share it on Slack at some point.
Nice. Very good. All right, fantastic. We also have, oh boy, Mr. Kaushik, Vaibhav.
Yeah, hi everyone. This is Vaibhav Kaushik. Yes. Yeah, so like I am like engineer in Salesforce. I'm still doing my graduation, and I mostly work around Kubernetes and operators and CRD's part. And like Istio was the one project that I recently came across, and then was contacted by Lee. And yeah, Mystery sounds like a good community to start with and learn about these service mesh, and I'm willing to like learn more from the community.
That's fantastic. You're in good company. Everyone here, including myself, is learning, still learning.
Yeah, that won't go away anytime soon.
Yeah. But Vaibhav, where are you physically located?
I'm in India, Rajasthan, basically, like more precisely Alwar.
Okay.
It's a small town. Yeah.
Very good. Yeah, my Indian geography's been improving rapidly. Good. Okay.
Thank you for having me here.
Yeah, no, thanks for coming. Very good. And then we have some Sanskrit characters that there's no way in hell I can enunciate. Anyone else who's new on the call today?
Mr. Bhal Chandra.
Hi, Lee. So unfortunately, my uncle says my name on Gmail account. That's why it is showing his name. So I am Sagar Utekar here. I'm from India, Maharashtra, and I'm currently working at Avaya India Private Limited company as a software engineer. I worked on DevOps side, Docker, Kubernetes, and OpenStack on all the DevOps technologies. And uh, yeah, I am looking forward to contribute and mentor for this project. This software.
Fantastic. When you said OpenStack, I just got this laceration in my side. It's sort of a battle wound from my time spent. I'm pleased to have moved on. But do you actually, quick question, do you actively spend some time in and around OpenStack?
Sorry, can you please repeat the question because I'm not able to hear you properly?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, very good. Let me actually, I'll chat with you a little bit later. I'm kind of curious about OpenStack. But
not actively. I used to work. Worked on the OpenStack part and developed some projects. But currently, I'm not using OpenStack. But I have good experience on the development side.
Nice. Oh, very good. Okay. All right, very good. Did anyone else new on the call that we didn't get introduced?
Hi everyone, this is Nitin. First of all, good to be part of here, part of the community. Coming to my experience, I have around 5 years of experience into DevOps stream, more on CI/CD process. I would like to know about the open source community, how it works, and more on Istio and Kubernetes stream of things on networking side.
Nathan, very good. Okay. I guess while I'm asking, whereabouts are you located?
I am from Hyderabad, India.
Okay. All right. I know where that one is. Good. Okay. All right. Very good. All right. Well, that was quite pleasant, actually. Thanks everyone for introducing. It's nice helpful to get introduced to everyone, and the same goes for folks who've been around for a while. Part of what I was going to ask today is that there has been and continues to be an influx of new folks every week. Some passers-by, and some of whom pass by in part because they didn't necessarily find their foothold, and so we're gonna try to work to, well, have some structure that some of you who've been here a while can help us ensure that people are being embraced in the best of ways, recognizing that some will never find a foothold, and then that was okay. They were just exploring, but for others, we want to make sure that if they're interested, that they know that there's a spot. There's an extraordinarily long roadmap here, many more initiatives than any of us represented on the call can accomplish onto our own, and that's not the intention. And so, actually, that's maybe a statement to make, that if you're on the call and you haven't quite found an area of interest or somewhere where you think you can make a mark, let me know. Or there's a handful of others that I'll point you to as well in the community to get connected with and explore. So some of whom you'll hear from today. So actually, first up, Nipur, you had an item, I think, to go over. The welcome bot.
Yeah, like Ashish have developed it, and I've been working with him to enhance the welcome bot. We have recently used on the GitHub of our Meshri or Layer 5 repositories. So I will kind of demo the part which we have developed yet. So let me share my screen first. So yeah. Is my screen visible to everybody?
It is.
Yeah.
Yes.
So recently, Manish Dagi 98 made a first issue. So if you could see that the welcome bot commented automatically that you made your first pull request and all the stuff which was required for a newcomer. And then just because his DCO failed, there was like in the review, Ashish left a comment that you should improve it. But when the merge was successful, the welcome bot again commented that thank you for the contribution to Layer 5 community. So that is the up till now work that have been work on welcome bot. We have been, as Lisa suggested that, and we have been working on an enhancement where the welcome bot itself can do the check for DCO failing. So yeah, that is the new work which Ashish and I have been working on. So yeah.
Yeah, that's nice. To comment on that briefly, it's likely to be the case that some of us on the call aren't necessarily familiar with what it means to sign your Git commit. Contributions to any of the repositories in the Layer 5 organization will have a check for whether or not you've signed off on your commit. I won't go into why, because I just got done doing that on Wednesday, and we've done it a handful of times over the last year. A lot of that logic, how it works and why, is written into the contributing guide. But it is not infrequent that people will stumble over that as they go to make a contribution. And so, yeah, to the extent that a welcome bot can gently can provide people instructions on how to just make commit signing an implicit part of their motion, their Git activities, whether it's an alias or whether it's an IDE configuration, I think is helpful to streamlining the process of contribution. Thanks for that, Nipur. Nipur, do you want to speak to your speak to the ways in which you're considering that you might be able to automate that or determine whether or not DCO failed?
Yeah, as discussed in the Wednesday meeting, we have not really reached a conclusion there, but we find out a few ways which we can work on and reach the required result. So one of which is I'll try to show you my screen. Okay. Is my screen visible to everyone?
Not for me.
Now?
Yes, it's coming.
Okay. So Probot is one of the repository or where like I'm showing you the welcome bot which we have been using, which is GitHub app. So it have been developed by Probot. So if we go to the repository of it, we can definitely see a lot of bots there. one of which is welcome bot. So when we last discussed in Wednesday meeting, the way I am thinking that we should approach to this problem is we should try to use this framework to develop a code in which we can do DCU checking. Initial thought was like somehow we put a if else in the code we have done, but I did not find a way to do that. So currently I am planning to approach this via using the framework which they have used in developing the welcome bot. So maybe that may help us to reach the required result. But any of you, if you have any suggestion, you can definitely give it to us so we can think of doing or like another way which could be a bit more easier or the direct way to do it. Like I have not really worked on bots that much, so if any suggestion you people have.
Nice. Nice. Okay. Oh,
Just a question, like I can see that there is a DCO bot or like framework existing. Like, why aren't we using that one with
Uh,
this?
Actually, Vaibhav, that bot just check that is the PR is signed or not, which I guess we are using in the GitHub action, which checks that is the pull request is signed or not. So that will just check that it is done or not. But we want to welcome the newcomer as well. So for that we were using welcome bot, and I don't know how to merge both the bots. That was my first question I asked in the last meeting. That how is there any way we can merge both the bots? So if you have any suggestion, you can definitely give it to us.
Do we need to merge the bots really, or can we like let them give two separate messages?
Like, yeah, be the two separate independent bots working. Maybe like, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so currently we are using, if I'll show you my screen again, I guess Lee is presenting that. So if you see in this one, when the welcome bot worked fine, so it gave a message without checking that the pull request was signed or not. But where all the actions we see that they're running, there it represented the DCO check is failed. So mostly the first comers who are new to the community or to the open source world, they don't really read that part. So we can directly we wanted that in the welcome message, if we can mention, instead of writing be sure to double check that you have signed your commit or not, we can directly mention that you have not signed your commit. Or we can like that kind of message if we could be possibly able to give to the users. So that is the need of the R in this VR. So yeah, like the one Lee is currently highlighting, DCO successful, this one. So that says passed or failed, but these checks are rare for a newcomer to check. So we are trying to merge both of them, and I'm new to this bot thing, so I'm facing a bit of difficulty. But like, do you get the problem, Saurav, what we are talking here?
Yeah, I'm getting it. So what you are saying is that there should be a message in the comment only that the DCO check is failing, right? And you want
Yeah,
that, and you want that it should come in the welcome message, welcome comment only, right? So,
yeah.
I am not remembering it, but do we have any DCO bot currently which comments at the moment, or it just comes in the highlighted section which Lee has highlighted?
There is a bot which ProBot have created, and I have not worked on the GitHub action which we are using currently. So I'm not really sure that what we have used in that. I am assuming that we have used ProBot bot only for DCO check. Lee, can you
yeah,
verify that?
yep, that's right. It's the same one that Vaibhav linked to. So that is a probot.
So the thing is that how we should proceed with this is that we should check whether or not the DCO bot can comment on the PR only. It'll help us. Sorry.
that will kind of help us, because that will, like, if DCO bot can comment, so we can hold the welcome bot somehow, that if DCO bot is commenting, welcome bot should not comment, something of that sort.
Yeah, they both can work in their independent forms. Like DCO bot can check whether DCO is signed or not, and welcome bot does its own work of welcoming. It can work in two separate ways. That's what I'm saying. We should proceed in that way.
I like the way Saurav is suggesting. Lee, can you just like what is your say on that?
Yeah, that would be ideal if the existing bot can be enhanced, can be customized a little bit to, it's sort of a natural path that it's the one determining whether or not someone signed off, and if they didn't, great. Yeah, I'm actually, I would be surprised that with a little bit of searching, we didn't find someone else hasn't already augmented that probot, the DCO probot, to do that, because that's such a common.
Yeah, I was also surprised when I looked for the things that is there a bot which checks, the welcome bot which checks that DCA check or not, and I really did not find any, and I was really shocked. Like, I checked the communities with the bots they're using, and there was nothing which was doing this thing in the welcome bot.
Oh, very good. Okay, fair enough. We've got a number of other topics. I'm gonna push us forth if I can. There were just a few announcements to knock out. We announced, I think, earlier in the week that that we're participating in a few internship programs. The community did last year and is doing so again this year in a bit of an expanded form. Last year it was just Google Summer of Code. This year again it's Google Summer of Code, but also hopefully Community Bridge, or not hopefully, but Community Bridge, and I guess hopefully Google Season of Docs, where we really need all the help that we can get, and so we'll likely be having a number of you that are on the call have applied through GSOC. Some of you will have an opportunity for hopefully Community Bridge and Season of Docs. The Docs might actually be best suited for a software engineer in terms of some of the things that we're thinking of doing. And then there's also a direct internship through Layer5 about getting the word out about many of the activities that are going on. So we opened that up earlier this week and had a couple hundred applicants. So we need to probably turn off that pipeline. Anyway, the other internship programs that they'll be focused on Envoy, SMI, distributed performance testing, Meshery. I think a number of you know that it's our intention to have Meshery head into the CNCF first half of this year, so relatively shortly. It's a couple of items for us to knock off before we go do that, but it's really rather close. Other quick announcements are just that there's been a spike in followers on LinkedIn this week, which is nice. So you should feel good about your works being recognized. Actually, some of your smiling faces are up on that page. So actually, there's a number of you whose faces are up on that page. So if your face hasn't gone up on that page yet, I guess work harder. Then also thanks to Raj, but really thanks to a few different things, that there was a spike in GitHub stars recently as well, which is fantastic. That put us past the threshold of 300, which is what we were waiting for in order to have Meshery listed in the CNCF landscape. And so Asuko took up that charge, and there's an outstanding pull request to have Meshery in the landscape. So that's forthcoming. All right, great. Those were the announcements. A few topics to chat through. I don't know, so there's a new blog post being drafted on getting started with Meshery CTL. I don't know if Kush drafted this. I'm not sure if he's on the call. This is an announcement as a request for comment. It's also an announcement to encourage each of you that if you've got something to say, there are a bunch of venues by which to help get the word out. One of those venues is the Layer5 blog. There are a number of other ones, honestly. There's a bunch of things to talk about that has been accomplished here. So if you're at all inclined, either do it unto your own, or let me know, or we'll make sure that it's elevated, and that if you don't have a venue to publish something, there are a number. There are a number of very prominent venues. I won't mention them, but just let me know if that's of interest to you. Thought there was another item I wanted to say there, but anyway, yeah, please, give Kush some comments if you would. Next, actually, Nipur, you're kind of back on the docket. Do you want to cover this document that you'd recently created?
Yeah, I would like to, but is there anything else that like I can go back after the other people will talk? I've been talking since a long time, so
sure, yeah.
that will be monotonous. So.
All right, we'll circle right back. Next item was just a quick note that we've done a little bit of uplifting on some architecture slides. So if you're new or old to Meshery, there's about 3 architecture slides that look at Meshery as it's deployed either external to a Kubernetes cluster or, well, actually this diagram is, yeah, it can be taken either way. You can deploy Meshery outside of a cluster or in a Kubernetes cluster, either way. Meshery has a couple of points of extensibility. One of those points is in the use of providers, and people can make as many providers as they would like. Right now, there are 2. There's one that's called None. It's a local provider. Actually, I shouldn't digress and explain this. Rather, it's in the docs. Hopefully, these visuals help people understand the component tree, the APIs, sort of the project overall. So it's just a recent uplift. Is Ayush with us today? I don't know that he is. He's been made a couple of changes both on Layer5 IO and within Meshery itself. Thought it would be good for him to demo those. Fixed a couple of bugs that have been, well, bugging us for a while. He's not on, so we'll come back. We talked about the landscape. Well, so Rob, I can't remember if I put this here or if you did, but your name's here, and so anything you want to talk about? Kind of the thoughts and the forthcoming work that is going to go into Meshery CTL.
Yeah, so I didn't put it. It might be you only. Okay. So, yeah. So the thing is that we are thinking of taking Meshery CTL forward by giving, like we already discussed this last Friday, and we are thinking of adding more features and more commands to the Meshery CTL CLI, so that what people can do from the UI are also able to do from CLI also. Please correct me if I'm wrongly. Yeah. And that's what. So we are thinking of, first of all, going through all the steps that we can do and start implementing on the CLI part. What are the different flags that we can provide, and the different commands which can help the user. Like recently we talked about the connection bridging. So one issue is open. So how we can connect our Meshery container or Meshery Kubernetes service with the running mesh. So that's how we can do that from the Meshery CTL command line only directly. That's what we discussed. So rather providing user going rather to the Docker sorry, what the Docker bridge connection command. He can directly put it using the Meshri CTL command only, and he can connect the Meshri service with his own service mesh directly from the Meshri CTL command. So we have to discuss about this. I'm asking Lee if we can get together and discuss something about it.
Yeah, it's one of those considerations that needs a bit of a step back to look at all of the functions and functionality that would come forth through Meshri CTL. While Meshri CTL, the command line interface, is not graphical, it is a point of interact. A point of it's a user experience for operators. So it's the CLI is a client of the Meshri server's REST API, just like the Meshri UI is a client of that same REST API. So I guess what I'm trying to say is Meshri CTL as a CLI should be given equal billing in terms of considerations around user experience. And to Saurabh's point, right now Meshri CTL as a utility really is focused on lifecycle management of Meshri as an application itself, and the deployment of Meshri, the caretaking of Meshri, the configuration of Meshri. And that's good, but that means that it's Meshri CTL as a utility is missing thank you, Vaibhav. See you soon. Meshri CTL as a utility is missing what are really two categories of capabilities that are exposed through the Meshri UI. They've yet to be exposed through Meshri CTL. It's actually a big mouthful what all of those capabilities are. And so as we consider the command and subcommand and flag sort of an arguments structure, we would ideally put some forethought into what that looks like. The most recent command to have come forth is called perf. It's a very important one because it unlocks what will soon, hopefully soon, be Meshri's use by the Istio project, by the Linkerd project, by really any of the projects that any one of you could prattle off. We've had discussions with them. Each have agreed to use Meshri in their build and release process for baselining the performance from release to release of those service meshes. And so the need to expose the ability to programmatically invoke performance tests, like as part of a CI pipeline, is critical to unlocking that collaboration. And so consequently, so is it critical then the design of what the commands look like, how they work. Inherent to this actually is kind of a nice little announcement that I didn't realize that we actually do have today. I think it was Naveen or Kanishkar, my memory fails, that recently
It's Naveen. Yeah, Naveen was the one who worked on the file.
Okay. Actually, so I shouldn't talk to it. Rather, Naveen, if you're on, I don't know if you want to talk about the service mesh performance specification, kind of that format, the flag that you recently added.
Yeah, so currently we have a repository called service mesh specification, performance specification. In there, we have smps.yaml, which is basically which is the intended format of service mesh performance file. But the thing is, currently it is not exported through the UI. I have opened an issue for it, and it is being worked upon. So the thing would be like anyone who runs a performance test would be able to export the SMPS file, and then they would be able to run the SMPS file. Like they would be able to run the similar test using that file through either UI or CLI. And same goes for CLI. We might like in future export the results through CLI, and in that way, so the dash dash file flag is added. In that way, we can achieve basically the CI/CD pipeline integration by Meshery. So Meshery can then be easily integrated in CI/CD pipeline of any mesh basically. So that was the work that was done, that was intended by adding file flag.
Any comments for Naveen there? So I guess a quick comment from me, and that is that it was on short order yesterday, I believe. You guys will have to remind me that 3.15 went out. That includes this.
Okay. Yeah. Yesterday. Actually, it would be today by India time.
Oh. I don't know that a lot of people have put it to use. If you think of it, go give it a twirl. So,
but the thing is, like you would have to manually like enter in SMPS format. Currently, we have no tool to export the results in SMPS format. Once it is there, we will it will be much more usable by everyone. Currently, it is the hard part is that you have to manually write the SMPS file.
That makes for a good note that particular discussion is a good discussion for a forthcoming working group on performance management. We had a discussion in partnership. One of our partners is University of Texas, Austin, or UT Austin. So there's a professor and a couple of PhD candidates that are, well, I guess coming up on a year now, we've been kind of engaged in some research on service mesh performance. As a matter of fact, we were to have spoken at KubeCon EU, I guess a week ago, on some of that research. We've spoken on it in the past. We're going to speak on it. It looks like again coming up, which means that as we establish that working group, there will shortly be some public venues to publish some of that. There's a lot of goals within there. It's one of the deeper areas for Meshery, one of the areas of value. Okay, fair enough. Next up is Shivai. Shivai is not on the call with us. We are overdue to make this release. Shivai did do some work recently. So the release itself is fantastic. It's sort of the longer that we delay, the larger that this thing gets. Shivai was working to create a new page on meshery.io that will speak to what all of those releases are. Today, the releases are published in the Meshery docs. On this page here, it speaks to what the version was when it was released. But this process is manual, and a number of you have been discussing how to make that a bit more automated. And then also to maybe beautify, I think, some of what this is. And so part of Shivai's work was to get that onto the Meshery.io site. If we have time, we can quickly build this and take I haven't seen what that looks like, and I'm quite curious. So if we have time at the end, maybe we'll circle back to see that. Nikhil, if you're on, you're up. I'm going to try to check out that branch and build it while Nikhil is coming off mute.
Yeah. Hi. Actually, I've connected from my phone, so if you can share the photo.
Oh, okay.
which I shared. Yeah, images.
All right, very good.
So I just had a conversation with Lee today evening on revamping the Layer 5 site using the color scheme that we're using for the logo of Layer 5. Currently, the Layer 5 site is a bit off-based color using blue and grayscale. So while the Meshri.io site exactly suits the logo and its color scheme of Layer 5. So we have been thinking that if the Layer 5 IO site can also be revamped using those color schemes. So I just made some changes and shared the screenshots with Lee. He will be sharing with you all in a moment. If you all can give some suggestions that is it correct or any changes we should do it.
So very good. A little bit more context here, and that is that, yeah, as Nikhil is thinking about is enhancing and beautifying this particular site, he's looking over the color schemes that have been laid out, the colors for the Layer 5, and then the colors for Meshri. And by the way, I don't know how well known it is, but there are brand kits which include all of the logos for Meshri and for Layer 5 that are both kind of on this site. I pointed out because there's been a number of times that people have been looking for them and didn't necessarily find them, but that they're here. So Nikhil was kind of working within the current color scheme to take a crack at how this might get augmented. And so I think it was fairly quickly that you had identified you. I think you're more or less taking a look at what would it look like if we were to swap out the kind of the blue with, well, swap out some of the blues, I think, maybe with some greens. And I thought, hey, this is a great, we should ask for some feedback. We should see what, Nikhil, maybe if you want to post these screenshots inside of Slack.
Yeah, sure, I will share that. Currently, there is one more issue with the Layer 5 site. The particle.js feature that we are using, it's the div section of that is a bit off, means it's a bit downshifted towards the lower section. It should be utilizing the whole div part, means the whole blue section, blue part of the body. So an issue can be opened for that also, if I'm not wrong.
You're right. You're right. Yeah. So Nikhil is referring to these particles back here, which probably at some point maybe should go away. It is rather meshy looking, so it's kind of neat in that regard. But I think we've had some difficulty placing it in the center of the screen. So anyone who has opinions on the coloring or other enhancements to the site, those are always welcome. Okay, very good. Well, we've got about 5 minutes left. What have we had? Nipur, maybe a good time to circle back to the effort that you were stewarding here.
Yeah, so I have been working on documenting the brief for all the repositories we have in Layer 5 organization. For that, I definitely need helps of different contributors who are working in different domains. For example, Nikhil is working in the front end domain. So if he could just give a 1 line or 2 line description about each of the frontline projects, and there is one very precise and short description for Go WRK2, which has been written here. So just 1 line or 2 line description of all the repositories which can help a newcomer. So I have just suggested some names in the document. So if any of you would like to pick up some topics and start with that, like if the people are present on the meeting, like Nikhil, Saurav, Naveen, Shubham, Ashish, Gunjan, and like if these people can just give 1 or 2 line description. So that's one volunteer task if anyone wants to do that.
Cool. Does that document make sense to everyone? It's intended to help people get their bearings as they join the project, kind of like the newcomer's welcome guide. Points out the various resources that this document would let people, there's a bunch of repositories inside of the Layer5 org, so it helps give people an overview and a guide to what their purpose is. Very good. Okay, so thank you for that, Nupur. Whew. Adina, a few minutes left here. Do you want to speak to the CI working group?
No.
No.
I didn't met with Sam. I was caught up in some delay stuff for my daily work and.
No, sure, but rather maybe just I don't know that everyone here is aware that there is a new working group that's formed, and maybe sort of the purpose of it. And
so there is a new CI/CD group. It's led by Saim, together with me. Maybe I will be of some help also. So yeah, CI/CD stuff and automations on pushing the code or contributions or repositories or kind of this. I don't know if I'm good. The meeting is every day, every week on Monday at 5. I don't know the time. My time is 5 p.m. European time +1, and maybe Saim can say more. I don't know what else to say.
No, that's perfect. Saim, are you on?
Saim, sorry for saying wrong the name.
It only took me 8 times of practicing that to get it right. So.
Yeah, so I would say just every time when someone will speak, we'll say, hi, this is, I'm, so we will learn the name.
Yeah. Anyway, it's a good working group. Well,
and on Wednesday, I missed the meetup. I don't know how I went 2 hours later.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for calling that out. Anyway, the CI working group is going to cover a lot of things: build, release, automation, the workflows, the GitHub actions that we're using.
Yes, there is also a channel that you created, Mesh3 CI. So, yeah, mailing list.
Yeah. Yeah, so if you haven't worked with GitHub Actions, there's an opportunity. One of the more significant things in my mind that is missing from the project that is a focus of continuous integration is release channels for Meshry itself. Today, there's essentially a single channel, which is to say that there is a release, but there isn't really a stable or an edge, which means that occasionally the release is unstable because there's only one channel. So the establishment of two, it could be a really helpful thing for the project, and could be an area that some of you want to jump into. So if you're interested, please ping Adina. She'll show you around. Anything we missed today? Other than Hassan, we didn't get to say hi to you. Thanks for coming today, Hassan. Okay. All right. Well, that's probably it. There is Hassan. Yeah. Thanks, Hassan. Actually, Hassan, I don't know if you're in a position to come off mute and introduce, but if you are, please do. And it's highly understandable if you're not. Not all of us are. But with that, just so Hassan, if we don't, you please interrupt. There you are.
Hi.
There you are. Yeah, if you want to do a quick introduction, it'd be great to get better acquainted.
Yeah, sure. I am a developer, PHP developer with backend heavily useful of for the backend technologies. So I just joined the community. Don't know much about that, but currently I connect to the meeting and join the sessions. It may be very helpful. You discuss different architectures, Kubernetes, and the running technologies, which I was about to study.
Nice, perfect. That's great. I'm speechless, I think, other than just happy that you're here. It's nice.
My pleasure.
Where are you from? Are you from Turkey?
Yeah.
Aha, so we have the same hour, I think. Sorry for the question. I just asked. It was a hunch that you are from Turkey. I wasn't sure. I wanted to double check.
Okay, fair enough. Very good. Thank you all for coming today. We're a couple minutes over, so we'll let everyone go. See you next week. See you in Slack.
Sure.
All right.
See you. Bye-bye. Ciao.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, guys.
Okay, goodbye.
Thanks. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.